What up, guys? It's your boy Yui from the Strictly Broken team, and we are back again with another podcast. Today, we are doing the World's Recap video. Exciting stuff. I know it's a little bit delayed, but coming back from Japan, jet lag. Everyone needs to catch up on a bunch of stuff. We're bringing it to you as fast as we could. What up? Today, I am joined by the entire Weiss Pro team, Ryan, Christian, and Kuhn. And today, super special guest, two-time world champion. Oh my goodness, man. You just usurped all of the other world champions. You are a beautiful human. Riaz, Mohammed, what is up, man?
Oh, it's going good. It's going good. I'm Riaz from RealityCX.
Oh yeah. Special shout outs to Broderick, who did not qualify for Worlds, but that's why I didn't shut him out. But Broderick, you're a beautiful human. I love you. Riaz. Sorry, I had to shout out Broderick there. But how are you doing? How are you feeling? Two-time world champion, man. How does that feel for you?
So, as my first time catchphrase goes, it feels pretty normal.
Feels pretty normal, eh? It's a little bit more normal than that, though. I think a lot of people were like, how why do you think you why 2 years? That's actually a big achievement. You say it's normal, but how what do you owe your success to?
Like, I owe it to the amount of practice you put in, right? You, I believe you put in enough practice, and with a little bit of, I guess, luck, you should be able to come up on top.
Mm-hmm. Practice and luck, the two ingredients to make a successful Weiss player. Seems about right. Guys, I know I've been neglecting you a little bit. How are you guys doing today? The rest of the team, or actually the team, Riaz. Sorry, I really want you as part of the team, but things can't happen, you know.
Yeah, I'm doing good.
I think we're all doing good.
Yeah.
Sucks
all
to
went-
not be in Japan.
Sucks leaving Japan. How was your guys' Valentine's Day? There, putting you on your feet.
I was on vacation. I was snowboarding, so I didn't do
Nice. That's what I expected from you, Christian.
Spent some
Yeah.
time with my waifus, man. Agile, my waifu, deck profile's up. So if you guys want to watch it, just on a lonely Valentine's Day, if you're feeling lonely, just check it out.
Dude, I just worked. Like, I just worked. It was boring.
Fair.
How was
fair.
your Valentine's Day, Yue?
I had a great date with my left and right hand. It was quite the day, man. Quite the day. No, I'm a fairly private person. Like to keep my life private. Sorry, guys, I will not respond to that. But all right, we'll move on. What we were talking about today? What are we talking about today? We're talking about Worlds, and I think if we did not talk about a couple things, because a lot of the community knows a little bit of what's going on. They see a picture, they see a Strictly Broken post. 3 of our players made top 8, and then by top 4, it's just 1 left, and you're like, wow, these guys are supposed to be some of the best players. What happened to them? So there's clearly something going on. We will talk about that and what happened at Worlds. But firstly, we'll recap to give you guys like a breakdown of what's going to happen. We're going to recap Worlds, talk about representation, talk about just some general stuff about this year's World Championships for Weiss, and then we're going to go into some of the drama stuff. So one of them being a pseudo time drama in top 8, and then finally you guys saw some pretty juicy stuff on stream in semis and finals, and we'll get the respective parties to go into details about them. All right, guys, we ready to move on? Bam.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
So for the Worlds recap, let's get straight into it. Christian, you want to recap some of the stats?
Okay, so looking at the chart, there's one thing standing out, which is AOT at the highest rep, which is not something that people necessarily expected. I think a lot of people were hyped on Fate, and Fate only had 3 players bringing it, whereas AOT had 7 players bringing it, which is even more weird if you consider the fact that like Fate is supposed to have a good matchup into AOT, and if that's the hype deck, why would so many people bring AOT? Other than that, the high rep decks were Konosuba, ReZero, Bang Dream, and SAO. All of those were, I think, fairly expected. They've been consistent performers for the year, and they've consistently had some form of popularity. ReZero maybe less so, but still fairly popular. And yeah, and then there was also 3 people brought Bunny Girl, 2 people brought Sunshine, and one brave person brought Gurren Lagann. Sunshine is a bit lower, I think, than it was across the season. I think it had a bit higher rep during the season, but maybe a lot of people thought that they don't want to bring it to Worlds. Worlds is a more high stakes event with better players, and Sunshine kind of has this reputation of like being good at just carrying you through Swiss in like a BCS setting. And Bunny Girl was also sort of hyped back when it came out, mostly carried over from the hype that it received when it did well in Japan, but ended up not having a high rep for this event. And yeah, I think from what this team expected, I think we expected if you like put 2 of the AOTs to Fate, so like have Fate, AOT, Konosuba, and ReZero as like the high play decks, then this would be about what we expected, or at least what I expected. I'm not sure about you guys. Would you agree?
I think Fate being so low is pretty unexpected, actually.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
think-
said. If like
Yeah.
some of the AOT players instead had brought Fate, then this would be about what we expected.
I think what
Me.
also is weird, is that Sunshine is relatively low because I know some players. I'm not too sure about Burn One, but especially Australia rated Love Live Sunshine very highly, and there seems to only be 2 players at the Worlds event playing the deck. So
Didn't Australia only have 3 reps this time?
Yeah,
Yes.
Australia had 3 reps, and the person who won Australia was one of the Sunshine players.
Wait, no. Mauricio brought Fate, or did
Mauricio,
Mauricio get second?
Mauricio came second, and
Oh,
yeah, he
okay.
brought Fate.
Okay. Yeah.
So, summarizing all these results, the big standout, the one I care about, being a one trick myself, Riaz, AOT. What are your thoughts coming to this tournament? AOT, was it the best deck? Was it your comfort pick? What's going on? Because highest representation, yeah, so that suggests something about the deck. But for you, what are your thoughts on these stats?
Well, like, is it like the reason why I chose AOT?
Yeah, or just suggesting why this it has the highest representation. Period.
Well, I think that since Konosuba won the Worlds prior, and a lot of good players think Konosuba is a really good deck, right? So I think maybe people brought AOT to counter Konosuba, and with Fate being so new, may not like because Fate doesn't do well against Konosuba. So I feel like a lot of people, like I guess, mind game themselves out of it. Like I don't want to bring Fate because it'll probably lose to Konosuba, so I can just bring AOT, which will beat Konosuba. Does that make sense?
Which is actually, actually exactly what happens. You had to play against Konosuba in top 4 and finals, smashing both. Shoutouts to Ryan. But why do you think? So, do you think everyone was on the same train that Fate was just a doggy deck for the tournament then? Because Fate lowest representation.
Well, I think also a lot of players that played in JP and posted videos online, I heard the same phrase over. It's not good without the heal event. So that might have discouraged some players from playing it, or they just didn't have enough like time to play test it.
Do you potentially think people dropped Fate because they didn't want to play the mirror match? Riaz.
Yeah. That. Well, see, so no, I think it's more so that people, like some other people, might also think that there wouldn't be a high representation of AOT. So if the deck that's Fate best against isn't highly representative, then why should they bring Fate? Because I do think over the years, like regardless of how this world stats look, over the years AOT has dropped dramatically in representation. So like maybe players thought that they didn't. There's not going to be a lot of AOT at Worlds. Since last year Worlds, it was like non-existent for the most part. So maybe that could be a reason, right? Because if there's not going to be enough of AOT out there for Fate to beat, then why bring Fate?
But AOT did the best this season, or like posted the best results over the course of the season. So wouldn't that lead people to think that AOT was like the deck to play against or the deck to beat going into Worlds?
I mean, that could be, but what I've also seen, right, is like I don't know, like me personally, right? Like this is me thinking about it. A lot of times when you win or did well with the deck, may not be the deck that you take into Worlds. So, like, I like me personally, I didn't actually think there'd be that much AOT players. Like, I thought that people would just use it to win their local regionals or whatever, and then hop on another deck that they think might be better for Worlds. If that made any sense.
Was
Do
AOT? Sorry.
sorry,
Oh.
couldn't continue.
Was AOT the best deck for the BCS regional qualifiers?
I
Riaz.
think. Oh, me. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that when you say qualifiers, you're talking about like the
So
ones
the
before
BCS.
Worlds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think so because I think like, especially without Fate being out till the very end, I don't consider any other deck to have a positive matchup against AOT. I feel AOT has the least bad matchups in the sense that at worst some decks may, you can argue you can go 50-50 with it, but I think AOT has a positive, like at the time of BCS, I think AOT has a positive percentage to win against all the rest of the decks in the game.
Just to clarify, what decks do you actually think AOT doesn't have a positive matchup against?
So obviously there's Fate. And like maybe Bunny Senpai, but like or whatever, yeah, that's what it's called, right? Yeah.
Bunny Girl Senpai?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, so the one with the standby and the huge bodyguard in center. Maybe that one, but I think that Fate would be like its only, or that's the only deck that's good against it. Then you have like Sunshine that could maybe kill you out of nowhere if it has a good level 2 turn, but I think most decks are like 60, 40, 55, 45. They're not favored to win against AOT. Because I also think AOT, out of all the decks in the game, AOT is the one that least depends on luck, and more so knowing how to play the matchup. It like Konosuba, relies on luck a little at his top end. Too many variables to deal with. But AOT, like, legit just is the only deck in the format is like, I'm just gonna kill you. Like, I'm at level 3, I'm gonna kill you. If there's less RNG in it. I guess, what is it? Yeah, I mean, like, the way it kills people, the way it perceives the game, there's like almost no RNG when dealing with its mechanics.
Sure.
That's what I
sure.
personally feel.
Comparatively to some other decks, they're like one common argument against AOT is it's overly reliant on its level 1 climax, on the wind climax. If you don't find wind, you fall apart.
Well, I like to argue that what makes a good AOT player versus a bad one is knowing how to play the game without the climax. Because not every time you're going to get the climax. I feel like you get the climax, I don't know, me personally, like 9 out of 10 times you win the game probably. But I think being able to understand how the deck will flow and how can you get from point A to B without the climax is less, let me call it, like, concise, like, or like a lot of players don't know how to do that, right? So
Riaz, I'm going to interject. I don't want to make this too much into an AOT specific guide video. You can do that on the RealityCX channel if they have one.
Yeah,
But
sorry.
we get it. AOT is they were really grilling you. I think you did a fantastic job defending yourself there. All in all, I think one big thing we can sum up with this discussion is that the Fate becoming a deck for Worlds actually oddly enough shaped the meta for Worlds for your AOT pick, right? That was a big thing you were saying. Fate coming in didn't create like a Fate meta, but it did paved the way for you to play against your better matchups, Konosuba, etc., right? Giving you a really good field to play in, which that's conveniently awesome. And you said you didn't even expect that, or did you kind of expect that? I forgot what you said.
Well, no. I expected a lot of Konosuba. I didn't expect a lot of AOT or Fate.
All right, so just to wrap up this like meta discussion and like the field discussion, the SB players, I'll tell you this right now, we had two people who bit the bait and played Konosuba, the people that, this was what Riaz was expecting. They played Konosuba to counter Fate, and we had this random ass noob playing ReZero. Fucking don't know, I don't know why, but why don't we start with Christian, because he's obviously the deviant person here.
The odd one out. Okay, so I brought ReZero, and if you consider this meta shell, like if I knew it was gonna turn out like this, I wouldn't have brought ReZero. So I'll say that much. But I just thought ReZero had really good matchups against everything except AOT. And I didn't think that many people would bring AOT, so yeah. In the end, it still worked out pretty well. I played against Riaz in Swiss, and that was my only Swiss loss. So yeah, that held true. And then in tops, I didn't lose because I played ReZero. I lost because of timing issues. So I don't think bringing ReZero necessarily impacted me badly. I think I won a couple games that I would have lost with other decks because I brought ReZero, and I'm comfortable or like happy with my pick. And I think it's still well positioned, and it's gonna continue to be well positioned with like new releases coming out.
By the way, check out his deck profile. You might need to you might fall asleep in the middle of it, but it's a very insightful deck profile. It's going up on the Strictly Broken channel sometime in mid-February. I think this will get posted before that gets posted, and then you guys can watch the profile, which will come up like in the same day probably. So check it out. Christian does a great job explaining. And if you need to sleep and you have insomnia, definitely watch it. Okay, guys, let's talk about Konosuba. Who wants to jump the gun here? You guys played almost the same 50.
Yeah, Kuhn and I almost had the exact same list. We just had like a 1-card difference, and it wasn't planned. It was just a coincidence, right, Kuhn?
Yeah, I guess so. Looking back at so my first thought was I was gonna bring like Sword Art into Worlds, but then during playtesting I got bullied by some Canadian. So that kind of went to shit, and then I didn't feel comfortable on the deck anymore. And then I was like, "Fuck! There's gonna be a lot of Fate. How do I counter this? We're gonna play Konosuba." And I guess it worked out. So there's that.
The Canadian was Ryan, by the way. Kuhn literally was on style until he got dumpstered by Ryan like over and over and over and over.
Impressive.
I'm sorry, Kuhn.
So yeah,
But,
what besides you guys picking specifically, did you guys have the same insight that Riaz was basically saying earlier, that it beat Fate and that's why it has to be the play?
Well, that's actually why I stuck with Konosuba for Worlds. Like I was expecting I was expecting the highest rep to be like Fate, Bang Dream, and then maybe ReZero. And I personally think that Konosuba goes even at worst against all those decks. So I going into Worlds, I was expecting Konosuba to be like either the best pick or a very strong pick based on that meta share or meta slice.
Fair. What about you, Kuhn?
I think Konosuba had like decent matchup into all the decks. I guess I think like sure you won't get your reverses as Konosuba versus AOT, but I didn't expect a lot of AOT, and even then, I didn't feel like, oh, if I run into AOT, I'm gonna lose anyway. I feel like I'm gonna do my thing, and yeah, I don't know, sack them.
Konosuba doesn't
whatever.
have like a horrible AOT matchup. It's still fine. You have the counter to deny them extra burns from Mikasa, and yeah.
What I
It-
realized though, when I was playtesting Ryan, was that he had a total different playstyle in how to pilot Konosuba, and I think his playstyle was actually like the correct way, perhaps. But still, I don't think like that was the 100% the reason why I swapped. But let's leave it at that.
So it sounds to me like, all in all, the 3 SBTCG players might have. So you guys won up the meta by going the deck that beat the deck that was supposed to be a problem, Fate, but then Riaz won up the one up and played AOT, and maybe that gave him the steam needed to win the event. Riaz was one step ahead, you know. His body is made out of cards, so you know you guys are kind of in a disadvantage there.
Yeah, dude,
But,
Riaz won the world's 3D chess game.
It's because I lost it last year. I had to make up for it.
That's true. That's fair.
Fun fact: during Worlds, all of the Strictly Broken team had to play against each other.
Oh yeah, that happened.
Right.
That's great. Team kills, but you guys all made top 8, so it
Yeah.
doesn't matter. You guys were good enough to power through it. You guys are the world's
Our
best, you
only
know.
losses were each other and like one other person, I guess.
All right, but yeah, that's it for the representation discussion. Let's just the big summary here is that there was a lot of mind games here, causing AOT maybe to be the most represented deck. When you go a level above a level, AOT seems like the best pick, and if you just go above one level, Konosuba seems to be the best pick. So that actually reasonably explains the representation really well, and why Fate was so underrepresented, and all these decks are more overrepresented. So if you guys wanted the best explanation on the representation at Worlds this year, this video is all you needed. Don't need any of those other podcasts. Shout out to Spring One, by the way. Going into Worlds this year, guys, people lauded it as the most competitive year, and I think from what I viewed from like outside, like as a spectator of Weiss, me being there and just watching, I think it was the most competitive year. It seemed that way to me, at least. How did you guys feel? I know, like, so when you guys listened to the podcast that we did before the event, Ryan was saying, "Oh, I don't really want to try, Kud. I don't really want to try." And then they were like in a fucking Daddies or something playing every fucking day. So clearly,
Yeah.
very high stakes here, guys.
Kun didn't want
what's
to
up?
go out with me because he wanted to test.
Yeah, what happened to I'm just gonna enjoy Japan. Fuck the event. I don't really
Yeah.
care.
Dude, I just didn't want to get one up by noobs. I don't know. Feels bad, man. What can I say? Yeah, that's actually the truth. I got like dumpstered by noobs, and then I was like, "Fuck this! Maybe I should practice." I'm shit.
Yeah, dude, Kun just kept being like, "Yo, let's practice, practice, let's play," and just constantly like barging on everybody, just trying to get practice in, and it like made us all like want to practice more.
Kun was the catalyst to what's it called, to a higher level of play, I guess, for Worlds. He was the catalyst. Him feeling insecure about Sao was the catalyst for more practice. There we go. Riaz, did you do any practice before the event? How was your practice? How did you feel? Was this the most competitive year for you? You've played at consecutive Worlds for 3 years now.
Yeah.
I would be tied. I would be more than you, but Weiss is shit game, and I played a different game this year. But how did you feel?
I felt, it was really competitive, like Worlds. That's what you're asking, right?
Yeah, was this the most out of your 3-year tenure running?
Well,
Was this the most
I would say so. I would say so, but also, like, when you look at everyone that was there, a lot of people knew each other. So just from that, right? Like, all of Strictly Broken is there. You have like majority of Burn One there. Like just by name alone, it seems competitive, but also going through it, it was fun and it was competitive. Yeah.
And you guys, the three of you guys, was it the most competitive year? For Ryan, I think it's your first year, but from what you can see from how you perceive outside, what do you guys feel about it?
So like I was going into Worlds kind of expecting like a joke. Like I said in the previous podcast, I thought like people would have like been complacent with just going to Japan and playing in Worlds. But like on the day of Worlds, I think was the most competitive Weiss tournament I've ever played in the like 6+ years I've been playing Weiss. It was actually insane.
Nice, nice. So it was competitive. It was, dude. You felt the tension in the room, man. There was some tension, guys.
Like for me personally, I had like one game that wasn't like high tension, high stakes. Like every other game in Swiss and Top Cut was like super high stakes, super high tension. Everyone was like super serious, no joking around. It was insane.
There you go, guys. Most competitive year, leading
Yeah.
to AOT winning. Therefore, AOT most competitive deck. Conclusions.
UA came late. Most competitive event.
Oh my god. You want to tell that story? Oh, maybe we have time at the end. I don't know. We could tell that story. Me and Christian almost missed the whole event, so that was pretty funny. Most competitive event. And we were in a sauna at 5 a.m. on the year of the most competitive event.
Deja vu from 2 years ago, yeah. This is the second time this happened to me.
All right, so conclusion. I guess our predictions in the previous cast that it was not going to be that competitive didn't hold true. Worlds creates a lot of tension for people, a lot of pressure, and I think as people become more globalized, right? The community is becoming more globalized. People are really everyone knows everyone now. It's almost you want to defeat your friends and be better than them, so you try to perform really hard at Worlds. Okay, but yeah, we can wrap up this discussion. Fairly competitive. And that's it for the Worlds recap. We can move on to a bigger topic, a topic that really kind of, I guess, brings kind of a little bit of an argumentative
to the competitiveness of the event.
But yeah, Kuhn, you want to explain the quote unquote time drama that happened in top 8 if people don't know about it already?
Alright, so leading to this event, or starting this event, Bushiroad announced a change in time ruling. So every game had like X amount of time, and when time was called, for Weiss it was 30 minutes. Whenever time is called, you get 3 turns, and you have to wrap up the 3 turns within 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, you get sudden death is primed. And yeah, that led into a lot of problems, I guess. Within top 8, 3 out of the 4 games went into time. Me and Christian's game was left unfinished, and yeah, there was a lot of drama.
Your games were left unfinished, and ultimately, you guys were knocked down in top 8, right?
Yes.
Well, Riaz's game also was unfinished. So
Yes.
actually, like every game that was unfinished has like at least one person participating in this.
So the only game that wasn't who didn't hit time was the feature match, actually.
Yeah.
Which was in a separate room. Oh, yes.
All right, so that's what went down. The fact of the matter is what went down, guys. Everyone, guys and girls, everyone who's watching this, we don't want to like just like lampoon this discussion with like, wow, like I know 2 of our players missed top 8, but the fact of the matter is time is important, and historically Bushiroad has a record of their streams and the event in general just being completely like out of sync, like in terms of their preparation. So time rules are really important just to keep the schedule organized, right? You have these time rules, the intention being to keep things very in order on time so that things can happen on time, so that viewers aren't pissed off because the Weiss feature match gets canceled for being way too delayed. Guys, what are the reasons are like, let's talk about why time rules can be important. What other reasons are there?
Well, obviously you have the logistics issues, like you only can rent the venue for a certain time. And also just it makes the event longer for everyone, not just the players but also the people involved. So I think that's the biggest part. I think any negatives on gameplay are like
Sorry.
secondary.
Sorry, Riaz, can you, your mic is having some static. Alright, thank you. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, so logistics are, I think, the most important part, and second most important part are, and I think like the things it does to gameplay are like less important in that it prevents people from playing too slow. And yeah, every high level card game has time rules, and they get enforced, even in top cuts in other games too. So there are definitely good enough reasons to have time rules. Whether the time rules were ideal for the setting is another debate, but time rules need to exist in some form or another for
Yeah,
a tournament to actually run.
do you? So yeah. Adding on to that, I'm gonna add on a little bit. I think there's this like concept that good players should end up playing faster. I know in Japan that's like a hallmark of good players. The good players are the ones that can, almost instantaneously make the plays. A lot of good players can
Yeah.
make plays fairly quick.
Yeah,
Uh,
because Japan is double us in time.
yeah, so their time rules are very strict, and so good equals faster play, blah blah blah. The time rules for tourneys. What do you guys think of this? So Christian, you brought. I kind of want to hear your perspective on this. Actually, you brought a stallish, kind of slow, grindy deck to the tournament, and which time rules are supposed to keep from being played, right? Like in Pokemon specifically, I think because there's times the reason why some certain stall decks aren't played as much is because they can time out and lose. So, and no one wants to watch these stall decks play. So, what is your opinion on this? Like time being a way to deter you from playing ReZero Super Stall, Grade 2, Level 2, stay at Level 2 forever.
Well, for me personally, I never really had time issues before because I just play fast enough for it to not matter. And yeah,
No, but like no one wants
I
to see your deck play on stream, maybe. And I think, like, what do you think of that as a like time being a way to deter
I
you from
think
playing the kind of
I
that kind of
think
deck?
stall, uh, in Weiss specifically is like not really comparable to stall in something like Pokemon because games still go by fast enough and like enough actions keep happening with like trigger checks, brainstorms, whatever, to like keep the game still interesting and moving. So I don't. A negative viewing experience is anything that's related to time rules for Weiss specifically. But I know that for Pokemon, like they do try to like keep stall off the streaming table because like it's less fun to watch for people. Yeah.
All right, let's move into some potential issues. Uh, so let's move into some potential issues. The one thing that I want to preface before we go into some issues was that during the top 8 match, they made the announcement for the Adventure Time set. Now, that wouldn't be an issue if they gave a time extension, but they every like the Weiss tourney kept going on with no time extension as the Adventure Time announcement was made, and the players all stopped playing. Like as a spectator of the top 8, I literally saw everyone's heads go whoop and just stare at the
Yeah.
stage for like 5 minutes, and then go back to their games, but no time extension. So I want to add that to the fact pattern a little bit, guys. What are some issues with what happened with the time situation?
Well, so the way that the Sun and Death ruling works, that they were using at Worlds, the 5 minutes, and then you do damage check. Whoever has the lower damage is the instantaneous winner. Like one of the big issues with that is that it actually incentivizes slow playing. So like as soon as they call time and you go into like your 5 minutes of overtime, like as soon as you're at a damage that's lower than your opponent, it's on the time rules are almost forcing you to play slower, so that way the time runs out because you win right away, right?
Even if you're not ahead, like if you just stall in a way that the opponent doesn't get their turn, you basically had one extra turn of the game, which obviously makes you more likely to like win. And
like
in the
I
context, like if
assume
the first player doesn't slow play, like if the guy with the first extra turn doesn't slow play, then the guy with the second extra turn is incentivized to slow play because he can for sure make it so the opponent doesn't get another turn. So, yeah.
Like if you're in like I know this is malicious and like it goes against the competitiveness, but like if you are in a match that you know you're probably not going to win, and then like, they call time, you're at 3-2, your opponent's at 3-3, like you're essentially being given a free win if you just slow play it out, right? Like the it's kind of not right to say that, but I think that is an issue with the way that they were handling the time rules at Worlds.
I want to touch on this a little bit. So in top 8 during my match, my opponent used the Fumio effect, where I basically just shuffled like 20, 25 cards back into my deck. And I wasn't actually allowed to randomize my deck properly because of time. The judge literally told me to shuffle faster, which is weird, right? Like, and then I did timeout, and then I lost. So I'm not too sure if this change of time is like a good rule, so to speak.
Like so another issue with the 5-minute overtime into sudden death is that like as soon as the judges announce you have 5 minutes left, the pressure is added on top of you, so decision making becomes harder. So if you're like playing Konosuba and you're on your final turn and you have a whole bunch of potential lines that you need to be thinking about to like figure out which line is the best one to take to win the game, like being told you have 5 minutes makes those decisions harder. So you end up like wasting more time doing your turn.
Yeah.
Like I think it's the same with like ReZero. I think it's the same with AOT. I think it's the same with like almost any deck that has like multiple different paths that it can be taking for its final turn.
I think it's probably like ReZero. No, Konosuba is like the one where that happens the most. Because like most other decks have like one main game plan that they use at level 3, but Konosuba has like between Fumio and Clock Kicks and Burn 5s, you and your available stock, there's like a lot of variation between what you do. Other decks like that might be Garasao, or I don't know what else is like a flexible top end.
Not a lot, man. It's the beauty of Garasao. Check out the okay. No.
Well, in English there aren't many decks. Yeah, if something like Million Life might take like a shit ton of time in its last turn.
So countering. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna counter you guys here, and I said a little bit before. You guys are saying that you guys don't get enough time anymore to make the decisions. Blah blah blah. Good players have to be able to just know the right decision. A very Japan mentality for this. How would you counter that argument that because you guys lost in time means you guys were not good, basically, and that you guys deserve to lose the time because the tournament is supposed to reward the winner and the good player?
I think that's a fair argument, and definitely there's some truth to that. But also, like even if you yourself play fast, you can still get stalled out in a sense by the opponent. Or if the game just takes longer because people cancel, there's still some issues. I think the current way they handled it was less than ideal. But if you, in general, I do think people play too slowly, and people need to up their pace of game. For Weiss specifically, I don't know how it is for the other games, but I think there's a general lack of speed, and also in the community, like people don't really accept that there is a lack of speed and actually try to get faster so that these situations happen less.
So I want to touch a little on this ruling in general. So I'm not sure if everyone was aware of this change in the ruling, but they basically made it at the start of the tournament, which was very hard to hear. They put it up online on their website, and I'm just gonna take a wild guess. I think 60% of the players wasn't aware of this time change. Also, going into top 8, yeah, what was I gonna say?
In top 8, there wasn't like actually communication of how the time or like how overtime was going to work. So like when the judges actually called time, or when the judge called time during top 8 games, they didn't say 5 minutes sudden death. What they actually said was 3 extra turns.
Yes, but I think for overall consistency of this season, right? So like you play the season, you go into a BCS, right? And you have this, you're used to this ruling, and then for some reason, going into Worlds, they changed the consistency of the ruling, which perhaps surprised many players
Yeah.
and maybe caused some losses. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember because like I didn't go to time in any of the Swiss rounds, and also I haven't been to time in a while, so I really didn't realize in our top 8 game how fast 5 minutes went by, because time started when I finished my attacks, and honestly it didn't feel like another 4 minutes or so had passed, and then like at the end of Ryan's turn, time was over. So I didn't have the feeling that somebody was playing slowly, like he did normal actions that you'd think about during a game. So I think like 5 minutes is just not really enough to do proper turns, unless like everyone in the room realizes that like 5 minutes is nothing and you need to like speed through your turn.
Is it your guys' job to know about these ruling changes in the first place? Is it? So a lot of you guys have invites. Christian didn't, I didn't. Is it our job to be to like know these rules? Is the onus on us? What do you guys think?
Well,
If yeah, Riaz.
yeah, I was gonna say I personally think so, but I'm kind of like the person who's like crazy at checking things like consistently. So like, I was checking like every day for like while I was in Japan, right? So that was like from Friday to Saturday and on forth. So I saw it, but I actually don't think the majority of people would think that in their minds it might be just the same as it was at their BCS.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
like, because I was
yeah.
aware of the change, but when I saw games go through at Worlds, it looked like it was something totally new to people, right? But I wasn't aware that the change was like that instant, right? Like I thought it might have been like a while, and I just like, because I only looked at it when I got to Japan, right? So I actually don't think like people see the rules at the start of the BCS season, and they just assume it's the same for the rest of the year until the year is done.
Well,
So, but I do think, like me personally, I do think it's the player's job to look at it or ask an organizer before the tournament starts. That's just my outlook on it.
Christian, were you gonna say something? I'm gonna say something if
Yeah.
you're sure.
Yeah, I was just gonna say a little bit. Even if you know like the time rules and if you checked, because there hasn't been a tournament with this time rule before, it's hard to gauge the actual time. Like have a feeling for how little time 5 minutes is. So I think testing like the new time rules out at Worlds was a brave decision, but that they maybe didn't think would impact as many games as it did. But
The
yeah.
thing though is like when you have okay, so I feel like it's a lame excuse to say that people who are going to a world level event should always be careful on the rules. It's a really lame excuse because now it completely shifts the onus to be responsible for the event onto the players, which it shouldn't be. The tournament organizers should make it as easy for the players as possible to be playing the game as their only concern. That's like a huge problem of mine. That with these new rules, the way they changed it and the misinformation that existed, it actually favorites people who are more careful, like who are more prone to be like anxious people. The rules now suddenly favor anxious people to win the event because they know this time rule, whereas people who are more like carefree can't perform as well, and that has nothing to do with gameplay. That's like the problem. You being good at the game no longer matters. If you knew the time rules, you were at an advantage. I think a company should they should make it clear for everyone so that this is not the issue. That only play is the issue, because that's what we're testing at Worlds, play, not your ability to know a fucking rule. You know what I mean? That's my argument to it.
Well,
to counter Riaz a little bit.
To be fair, they did announce the time rules at the start of the event, I think. I don't know because I wasn't there until after the round started, but
Yeah, me neither.
I think they announced it.
Yeah, they announced it at the beginning.
Yeah. So I didn't
But it
actually
was
know until
noisy.
like round 3 that there were time rules.
Well, one of the issues with the announcement itself was that they didn't like actually clarify or specify what sudden death meant. Like when the announcement literally just said you hit overtime, 5 minutes, and then sudden death, and then that was it. That was the entire announcement.
Yeah. And one of the judges was actually confused about what sudden death meant. No, that's true. That happened in round 3, I think, with Cameron.
Okay.
Yeah, Cameron and Mauricio.
I think they got a double loss, right?
They did get a double loss.
Because like
they hit sudden death. One player was 3-2, one player was 3-3, and then like so sudden death, the player that's 3-2 is supposed to win instantly, but it wasn't ruled like that. It was ruled that the next like change in damage was going to end the game. So the player at 3-3 healed to 3-2, and then the judge ruled that as a double game loss.
All right, we're gonna wrap up this discussion. The last thing that I want to add,
I mean,
that's Christian.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave for the last part. I have to go, but yeah. Shout outs to the team. We all made it to top 8, and let's try to be there again next year. But yeah. Okay.
So, wait, I was gonna say some last thing. I actually forgot what I was gonna say about the time rules. But yeah, we can move on to the last topic. So all in all, just to sum it up, it was frustrating for 2 of our players, top 8 players, who, you know, the big thing is you travel to these things, and you might have got a paid invite. You might have had a paid invite. You might have not had a paid, and it sucks more when you don't have a paid invite like Christian. But just being knocked out of the tournament on a reason that isn't your play always feels bad. The need for the time rules, like, it's very clear to keep the schedule intact, to keep everything flowing in like in an order. Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, when you crown a winner, and not to take anything away from Riaz, because there was time rules like this, even for Riaz, like, you can like the win doesn't feel as satisfying when a good chunk of your opponents lost the reasons that were in play. You can't truly call yourself the best in the room when some people lost the reasons that weren't the play in itself. Not saying you aren't the best in the room, Riaz, but just saying that the time rules suck. And that's it for that topic. Maybe we'll try again next year if the time rules didn't demoralize us from just not playing the game anymore. Jodan. Okay, final topic. So, time rule was an issue. There was another issue in top 4, and this one's hilarious for me. I'm gonna tell a little bit of story. We had a viewing party in BC. The BC community had a viewing party at a guy's house, and they were watching. They like bought a bunch of snacks. Everyone was at this guy's house having a good time, and they were like, "Oh, Strictly Broken player on stream top 4." They're like messaging me about it. They're like, "Oh, this is sick. This is sick. This is awesome." And then 2 minutes later, game's over. Or like 5 minutes later, game's over. No one knows what happens. Like, literally, no one knows what happens. The game just ended, and everyone was there for the viewing party, and they're just like, "Okay, what do we do now? Let's play some blackjack or something." So what happened was Ryan was in top 4. Ryan, you could tell the story a little bit more. That's just my little bit of a little story. Sad viewing party. What's up, Ryan? What happened?
Oh,
You were the
God.
top player.
Oh man. I guess I'll preference it with like some backstory to the situation. So like as like if you watch the stream, you know, Riaz and I, we started our game. We played like 4 minutes, maybe. We did like 4 turns each, and then I was in the middle of a turn. The game got stopped. and then the stream like stopped. It went over to the commentators. No one knew what happened, and then the commentators said, "Oh, Ryan has a game loss," and then that was it. And there was a lot of confusion, which is a little unfortunate. But the backstory, or like the setup to this, is at the end of top 8, when they called the time, we actually, all the players at the table and all the spectators like spent 30 minutes I guess saying arguing is like a worse way to put it than what it was, but like talking with the judges and the staff about the time rule and about like all the issues with it and how it was like not a very good thing. So we wasted 30 minutes talking about this time rule with the judges, and then at the end of the 30 minutes, when everyone was done, we were getting up. Riaz and I were approached by the staff to go to the stream room and get set up for the game. Like, we didn't have any like time or any break in between the top 8, the arguing with the judges, and the top 4. We just got sent straight to the stream room. Like, we had to ask the judges specific for an extra 2 minutes to just like go to the bathroom and like have a quick break. So there was like there was no time, there's no break, there's no nothing, there's no like way to reset the mental. So Riaz and I both went into the top 8 game with like the tilted mentality that occurred from the top 8 debacle. Do you agree, Riaz?
Yeah, I'd say like we're on edge basically, and about what happened at top 8.
Like, you would have wanted a break, right? Like at least like 5 minutes just to reset your mental.
Man, I needed like 90 minutes.
Yeah, but his body's made out of cards, so you can't. He's already. He has a passive. He has a passive in the tournament. He's stronger than you. But okay, so now
Yeah, there's also. Yeah, continue.
So now you end up being disqualified in the end over a miss salvage effect that you used wrong. I don't even want to go into the exact effect, but you're disqualified for that.
No, I think explaining it is like reasonable, because like I don't think they said what happened on the stream. They just said I got a game loss. So like
Okay.
the quick
what
and
happened
dirty.
then?
The quick and dirty of it was I was resolving Nuisance Megamine, the Chiri on Death Akatsuki effect. It only grabs magic. I flipped 4. I saw Snot Aqua. I thought to myself, "Oh, this is the card that wins the AOT matchup." My brain turned off. I grabbed it and I just kept playing my turn. And you can't grab Aqua. It's not magic, so that's an illegal game state. We kept playing. It was an impairable game state, so game loss.
So there you go. That's your top 4. A room of like 20 weebs in a BC person's house came to watch you play top 4, only for it to end in 5 minutes. Feels good, man. Feels good, man. So, what are your thoughts on the scenario, Ryan? How do you feel about the scenario? How do you feel about what happened?
Well, now that we've had like a month to settle about it, I don't really care anymore. like, I think I mentioned this in the previous podcast. Like, I going into Worlds, I was already complacent with just like being there and being able to participate, since it was my very first time. I didn't really have like any expectations of like doing well. So like, even just making top 4 and finishing 3rd was good enough for me. So I'm not angry. I'm not upset with myself. I'm not upset with like the staff or Bushiroad or anything. Unfortunate situation. That's just how it is.
Kuhn, do you have a... Kuhn, are you there?
Yeah.
So Ryan, I'm actually just... So what are your thoughts with the argument that this was an unexcusable mistake for someone who plays at your caliber, who you're here all the way in the semifinals and you grab a card? Does that mean you just deserve the game loss straight up? Like, because like you playing that way, like you sacked in Swiss or something, that's like an argument that could be made that you cannot possibly be good. What are your thoughts on this?
So I think like realistically, the player who makes this kind of mistake is at fault, right? Like you make an illegal play, and you're playing at the highest level, so it ultimately is your own fault, right? However, like Ryan said, and what Riaz said, like there wasn't 30-minute long discussion about the time ruling, etc., etc., and the players just didn't reset their mentality going into the game.
But that's like inexcusable, right? To a certain extent, like why? How could you have let outside factors affect you in game, right? It's inexcusable. Like
Yes.
Is it fully inexcusable though? So like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna blame what happened on anyone else. It was my mistake. I messed up. I paid the price. I didn't get to beat Riaz. I didn't get to potentially beat Lamb and win World. Unlucky. It happens. Like I think that there are like you have to also sort of look at it from like a humanitarian aspect. Like no one's perfect, right? Everyone makes mistakes. Like even the top level players when they play Weiss and like casuals or just like locals or whatever, they make mistakes. They misplay. It happens. That's just how it is. No one's perfect. It was just an unfortunate situation that happened to me in top 4 on stream playing against Riaz. Unlucky.
Here's what a BC person actually said to me, and I was talking to him about it. He's like, the fact of the matter is you could have been misusing your Rize, your on death Akatsuki all day, and only in top 4 do you realize that you haven't been using it properly. And how can you defend yourself for that? Because no one. This is the only chance you get to show your ability to know your cards and play well, and you kind of fumble the ball a little bit. Every other time we can only take your word for it. So what's up?
So if we go back to the beginning of the podcast video that we just did, we all sort of agreed that this was the most competitive year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So part of being, at least in my opinion, part of being a competitive Weiss player is card understanding and deck understanding. You know the cards that you're playing against, you know what your opponent's deck is doing, you know what their effects are. So if I was sitting in Swiss and I was misplaying, like misusing my Megumi and Chiuri throughout the entire tournament, the other players, the players sitting across from me, would have been able to catch it and call judge on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So like the argument that like I could have been misplaying it the entire tournament and sacking my way through Swiss, I don't think is particularly valid, because to make that argument, you have to assume, or like what's like the proper term? I don't know what the proper term for it is, but you have to like make the assumption that everyone I played in Swiss was also bad and weren't catching my misplays and weren't like calling judges on me, right?
Sure.
And I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. I think every player that I played against was a very good player, and I have a lot of respect for everyone that was at Worlds.
Except, okay, so now I'm curious now. Now you bring this up, Riaz didn't catch it. Top 4, he didn't catch it.
Oh no,
so Riaz, what's up?
Riaz was in the same situation. Like
there's a huge backstory behind this that'll take too long, but long story short, by round 2, I legit had a fever over 100 degrees and was dying at this point. So like in top 4, I was already like on death's door basically. So my concentration was like dwindling, like in and out, and I like low key when I saw him grabbed it, my mind instantly thought, oh, he must have used the back row union or something, right? like something like that, right? I think I made up a story in my mind to justify it because I wasn't paying enough attention to it, right? Like I saw 2 things rested. I was like, okay, he's adding this, but I wasn't really like paying that much attention. I just see him adding an aqua to his hand, right? It's like, oh well, somehow Konosuba adds aqua to his hand, so I just assumed, so that was like, that's my fault too for not catching it, because if I actually did catch it, I would have been like, no, you can't do it. That way it would have saved him from getting the game loss.
Yeah, another thing that I guess I didn't bring up earlier, like if the fact that like Riaz also didn't call it out in top 4 sort of goes to show like the mental state that we were both in when we were playing Worlds. and like how like we were like exhausted, we like didn't have a clear mentality.
The all in all, all in all, the mentality is a big proponent of the argument. I guess I want to wrap up this discussion with: was the penalty fair? In your opinion, and actually in both of your guys' opinion, and fairness and equitability, comes into question when we look at Riaz doing something kind of similar in the finals, where I don't want to go into details about the finals one, but he puts a card into damage that wasn't supposed to be in damage, and the judges let that slide. But it has some similar implications because both were corrective mistakes. They could have been corrected, but in Riaz's case, they don't want to DQ in the finals, absolutely. But so
Wow.
Ryan, do you think it was?
I think there's like a pretty big difference between the Armin and clock and grabbing Aqua off Cheery, and like
but like the argument for the Armin thing is that people can make their attacks different based on the damage that you're at, right? They can make the argument that they can attack differently based on the damage that you're at, and that influenced their play. That's a game loss in the rulebook.
Is that a game loss in the rulebook?
Yes, it is. If any decision can influence your opponent on how they would take their turn, it's a game loss.
But like on the flip side, like the actual difference is that having a card in clock that like wasn't supposed to be there is a repairable game state, because like it there isn't anything that can't be taken back to like fix the game state and go back to normal. Whereas like because I grabbed the Aqua and then took my turn, went into attacks, Riaz did his turn, and then I did another turn. There's no way to repair that game state, and then because you can't repair a game state, it is a game loss, and that is a fair ruling.
Mm-hmm. So fair ruling, game loss. You take the L. You think it's fair. It's just you would have liked. Maybe everyone would have liked it to be caught when it was repairable at a better time. I don't want to roast the company at all, but I felt like it should have been caught in the moment. I think we all inside a little bit, we felt like there should have been better metrics in place to catch it sooner. I think of MTG when something like this happens, Magic the Gathering, it gets caught instantaneously, right? So it's kind of unfortunate that it ends up as a game loss because it's something that could have been caught very easily. And in fact, the stream did catch it instantly, right? The stream, I heard, is that true? I don't know. Did you guys look back on it?
Well, so there's like a story. I think there's like a huge misconception going on. I mean, Wibbs, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the turn that you grabbed it, right? The turn after, the judge was asking you, what did you grab, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And this is before I swung into it. So you revealed the magic card in your hand, another magic card, right? I think it was like a 0/0 Megamine, right?
Yeah,
so
it was
it was the
other
judge's
card
fault for believing that that's what you added, rather than checking for himself. Because he could have repaired it there. Because that's before I even attacked. I don't know. Maybe you could have repaired it, maybe not. But like he did catch it kind of quick, and then this with the stream and everything. 2 turns later, then is when they gave you the game loss, basically, return later or whatever. So
yeah, the judge that was watching the stream game at the time did catch it at a relatively fast pace, but there was no I guess like behind the scenes, like because like the stream room was like, or the stream game is like in a completely separate room from the venue where like the actual like head judge is. So I think what happened is as soon as the judge called it or caught it and started like questioning and asked me like what card I added, the head judge that was in the other room was like going over the VOD to like confirm what happened and then make a ruling. So while that was happening, they didn't pause our game because I don't think they wanted to I guess waste any time or like cause issues with the stream or anything. They just sort of let us play it out while they were like going over and reviewing it.
Which is, kind of silly. I think of a lot of competitive games that are totally okay with pausing games. Dota, League of Legends, Magic. If something's up, they will pause the game on stream. So maybe a different perspective here. So
because the way I saw it is, I felt like Bushiroad, like, I don't want to sound like biased or something, but I felt like the way they approached it resulted in the game loss. Like how long they took, because by the time they were trying to make a ruling, 2 turns already passed, and it was too late to redo anything at that point. So it's kind of interesting how that turned out like that, though.
Yeah, but that's the bulk of the story. Ryan, very mature, takes the L, takes the L and takes it like I deserved this L. But I think the community backlash, there was a bit of community backlash, a lot of which, people forget things so quick. But I think any of you guys who put yourselves in the shoes that any of these players put themselves in and try not to play, like, what I'm trying to say is mistakes happen to the best of us. And it should not qualify you as anything other. The fact that you're there at Worlds should have already told the world that you're a good player, and that anything else should not disqualify you as such.
Yeah, I think just the act of going to Worlds in general is already like a good representation that like you're at least an above average player. So like even though there's misplays or like mistakes that were made at Worlds, just being at Worlds in general, like, and making top cut is shows that you're a good player and you deserve to be there. At least in my opinion.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Ryan. You're bringing tears to my eyes, man. Oh, okay, just kidding. Joe died. All right, all in all, wrapping up this video, guys. Thank you for staying the hour with us. We got some pretty juicy topics in. Hopefully, it was a blast. It was a real pleasure this year. Worlds was amazing. Like these guys said, one of the most competitive events this year, and getting to meet everyone. Worlds is like the experience, guys. If you want to meet famous Weiss players, famous quote unquote, and famous Bushiroad card game players, Worlds is the place. Playing cards games internationally, just as a competitive thing, is just really exciting, and getting to explore Japan for free was awesome. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that. This season, we'll make a separate video discussing future seasons to come. Strictly Broken is, we're always trying to win every event we can possibly win, so it's really exciting. Teams is exciting. Singles is even more exciting. Riaz, you're actually going back to Worlds again for free. That's insane, Riaz. Like, you three-peat this. If you get to do a three-peat, Riaz, I'm gonna be so jealous. I have to start playing Weiss again. Dude, I thought I would be the first to win it twice, but Riaz, I'm very impressed, Riaz. I've known you for like so many years, Riaz, like 5-6 years. I'm really proud of you, man. All in all, guys, any last words you guys want to say? Shout outs to any kind. What's up, guys? Any last words?
Shout out to Strictly Broken, sponsoring me that shirt. Giving me that cash. Yeah. Buy your Goblin Slayer singles, all Strictly Broken. And
cheaper than some shitty California store.
Yikes, dude.
Tom, I don't know if you want. Never mind. Ryan, any shoutouts?
This might be cheesy, but shoutouts to all the international Weiss players, like everyone that I met at Worlds for the very first time. You guys made the trip, and you guys made this Worlds very exciting. I hope to meet you guys or see you guys very soon.
Riaz?
Huh?
Any shoutouts?
I gotta give shout outs to RealityCX, but most important, I gotta give shout outs to Alfred Yang. All right.
Okay. Last but not least, I want to take the time to shout out a couple of things, actually. Shout outs to, our brand, Strictly Broken TCG, again, for Kuhn. Shout outs to Ian TCG, the app. We always mention the app. We forgot to mention the app. Shout outs to Burn One. I know we roast each other. We have a little bit of a competitive back and forth there, but you guys are awesome people. Shout outs to Pittsburgh Weiss Schwarz, another YouTube channel, another Weiss team. Cool. Shout outs to WCC, Vanguard Team, Weiss team. And shout outs to Nova TCG. Nova TCG is a shop in California, the best California shop where you can get JP singles from. The only California shop that you should be checking out, because the other one is dog shit. Okay, anyway. Anyways, guys, that's it. I'm tired. This podcast was an hour long. Thank you for tuning in with us. Looking forward to doing like a maybe 3v3 video or more Weiss podcast in the future, guys. So thank you for tuning in. And Strictly Broken signing out. Peace.